Hello, everybody, and welcome to Speak Up, episode 21. You can follow us and subscribe at Speak Up Am Yisrael, or you can get involved with our campaign by hashtag Speak Up Am Yisrael. Join us in empowering the Jewish community and educating them on matters of missionary infiltration. We have Torah educators, we have rabbis, we have Torah ambassadors, experts in the field, all that we interview to help overall give a better education to our community on how to protect ourselves and our children. Today I have the honor of interviewing Miriam Sandler. Miriam Sandler never planned on becoming a professional singer, but at the tender age of 18, she began touring as a background singer, dancer with numerous American and Hispanic recording artists. After receiving a jazz vocal degree from the University of Miami, she was chosen to join with Juan Sajada and Gloria Estefan for concert tours and TV video appearances. Her experience on stage was paralleled by a recording career as she was accompanied James Brown and Julio Iglesias on their CDs and worked with Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, and Toni Braxton. She left the fast-paced lifestyle behind for a life of clarity and truth. I'm so excited to interview her today and get her story. If you would, please let us know a little bit about yourself, Miriam, and your journey.
I want to just thank you all for inviting me to come and share my gifts, my story, and I really consider it a privilege to be with all of you today. I guess I'll start with the fact that I didn't really ever plan on becoming a professional singer. It was just something I loved to do as a little girl, and I would sing in the shower and perform for myself, and I sounded so great in the reverberating tiles, and I just love to sing. And, one thing led to another. It just kind of was something that I started to pursue because in high school, I just got involved with the different vocal ensembles and musical theater shows. And it was just a progression into music and I guess taking it more seriously. I ended up at Miami-Dade Community College, where I started taking private vocal lessons for the first time. And that's when I met my first private instructor by the name of John Cicada, who was at the time singing backgrounds for Gloria Estefan. And in South Florida, Gloria Estefan was like the superstar, back in the 80s, 90s. So Baruch Hashem, he really believed in me. He started recommending me to recording sessions. I was doing commercials, voiceovers, and little by little, I started singing backgrounds for different recording artists. Primarily, I started off in the Spanish-speaking Latin world because I am Cuban Jewish. I'm a Cuban. They call that Juban over here in South Florida. So I kind of used my salsa and my Spanish to get into the music industry. And that was really amazing. I remember at 18, I went on my first international tour with an artist by the name of Cheyenne. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I do. Yes. I'm actually a Latin Jew as well, and my family's from Mexico, so very familiar with everyone on your genre. Absolutely, spent a lot of time in Miami and in a different lifetime. So yes, for sure.
Good. I was wondering if you were a Latina Jew like me. So it's always fun to meet, another Latina Jew. We have, I feel like a lot in common. It's like a whole little subculture.
For sure.
Yeah. So we got to Guatemala. That was our my first gig internationally. And there was literally thousands of screaming fans in the airport. And I was like, whoa, this is a very new reality for me. It was amazing. It was like a dream come true. Right.
For sure.
That's what we all, are hoping for, that big break. And at the age of 18, I got it. And, from that gig, I went on to meeting many other Latin recording artists. I ended up, doing recordings for Julio Iglesias, and eventually John Cicada introduced me to Gloria Estefan. And we did quite a bit of shows. We performed, all over the world, everywhere from Central and South America, all over the United States, Canada, Europe. Actually was my first performance on the French Riviera with John Cicada. We also performed in Japan. And it was a very fast-paced lifestyle.
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough to perform at the White House for 2 different presidents, and we also performed for the Queen of England. So I really, in my early 20s, I would say from about 18 to 25, was living the dream, private jets and, designer clothing and regular television appearances and having my hair and makeup done by the best makeup artists. And, it was, what we all dream about and what a lot of young girls and women wish they could experience. I really, felt very blessed to have been trained and work with the most amazing world-class, musicians and professionals and producers, directors. It was really a gift to have that experience. And I feel very blessed now to be able to give that to exclusively female-only audiences.
Amazing.
So, yeah. So
Amazing.
that's a nutshell. I can segue into how, little by little that happened. I don't know if you want to
I have a few questions, if that's okay. Definitely the little Daniela and me growing up in, listening to all of those artists and being a part of that. Definitely. So I went to performing arts school, and I was, I did theater and dance and things of that same nature. And so definitely you were living the dream, right? As we would know it at that time, right? That was the ultimate success, right? So looking back now, how do you view that differently? Looking back at that experience, and I think of me as little Daniela and all of those dreams of that big, and Hashem actually kept me away from that, which I was today very grateful for, that he took me on a different path. But what did that, how do you look now, looking back at that world? What does that look like now?
I look at that world as being a facade. I look at it as being a show. It's really, all about business. It's, about selling, units and making recording artists into puppets. And they become enslaved really to their image, the image that the record label and the producers want to create. And unfortunately, they lose themselves in that industry and in that image. And, I witnessed a lot of manipulation in there. Artists become who they have to become, who they're told to become. And it, at the beginning, let's say, it was like, wow, this is it. I'm on TV on a regular basis on the Tonight Show and meeting all these famous people and traveling, and touring backstage with Tina Turner and Prince. And, this is like unbelievable, and hanging out in their mansions and backstage parties. And, like there I was. But I just little by little saw that as I met people in the industry, very wealthy, very famous, very successful people that were at the top of their, industry. I just saw that deep down inside, behind closed doors, they weren't necessarily happy or fulfilled. They didn't feel a sense of accomplishment or depth in their life. And on the contrary, what I saw was, at best, superficiality. And I would say at worst, a lot of darkness and depression and just a sense of, hopelessness, imprisonment. I'm grateful on the one hand that I experienced it all, because maybe I would feel like I meet a lot of girls and women, for the past many years, that they always have this feeling of, they'd love to be able to be on stage and, like performing in stadiums in front of thousands of screaming fans and being on TV on a regular basis. So I'd feel like maybe I missed out, or I'd never know, or what if, if I had gone down that path. And so I went down the path. So I have now an enormous amount of clarity, and I'm really, really grateful for that clarity, along with all the musical skills that I learned and the performance skills that now I give over to my students. But I look at that world, to answer your question, as a facade, as the matrix of the secular world. And since then, I've kind of, Baruch Hashem, successfully, shifted into the world of Torah and mitzvahs, and have very much worked on my relationship with Hashem. It's a priority for me, and giving it over now to the klal is a priority for me. Girls and women specifically. I perform for women. I share my personal story. I have original songs that are all very meaningful to me that I wrote. And I'm excited to build girls and women up and help them become passionate about their avoda system.
Amazing. So that kind of segues into my next question for you, which is, at what point or what happened, what took place that created this shift? And if you could maybe give us a little bit of background of like your level of observance growing up, what that looked like a little bit, and then how that transitioned to the amazing Sinua woman that we have sitting in front of us today. So what did that journey look like?
Well, I was raised in a very secular home. I knew that I was Jewish, so that was never a question. But we didn't really observe much, like we were the kind of Jews that would go to shul, synagogue, or temple on Rosh Hashanah, maybe. I know my father, I remember him trying to fast on Yom Kippur, but he would get very, strong headaches. But we didn't really do much more than that. And, the Latin Cuban culture is very spicy and very passionate and colorful, and boy, did we love to dance and sing. So that was like a big part of my upbringing. I remember seeing my parents dance together salsa, and they were just like a machine, like one machine moving on the dance floor. So, that was really a big part of my life. Also, my upbringing was very focused on physical external beauty, always making sure that you're slim, and your hair needs to be done perfectly, and your nails and makeup and your outfits, and so gotta look good. And the music industry obviously is also very much centered around your physical appearance,
Right.
So I have to say that in the secular world, women are brainwashed into thinking that this is the way to get ahead. Use your physical beauty and your feminine power, which women are very powerful, to get ahead in business and in whatever it takes to get ahead. And, this is the power of the woman. So, this strategy, let's say, that we're all brainwashed as secular women into using, was very successful. We're all using our physical beauty to get ahead in life. It's a very, powerful tool. And I'll tell you what I found, Daniela. I found that because of the way I presented myself in dress and behavior in the surroundings I was in, I was attracting, obviously, certain types of people and relationships that were all very superficial, because I was giving off the message that I'm superficial and I don't really have much self-respect. So why should anyone respect me? So the strange thing was that I always was longing for deeper connection and deeper relationships and more meaningful conversation. And so I just found like it was so hard to find, because, obviously, like at a backstage party, no one wants to talk about deep, meaningful,
Definitely not.
Values and goals. And, it's like people are just there to have fun and, be wild and crazy. So after, I did that for a couple years and was very disappointed by the relationships and the behavior that I saw. I really felt like I was tired of being treated like an object. And really, Hashem gave me two very strong taps on my shoulder. I would say one of them was I was engaged to a non-Jewish man. And I found out that he was cheating on me. And that was a big bomb for me. That really shifted me in a very big way towards different types of relationships. And then the other big bomb was that my father was diagnosed with cancer and he was given 3 to 6 months to live. So I would say that those were perfect challenges. At the time, they were devastating, they were tragic, but I see now, many years later, that they were perfect challenges and tests that Hashem sent my way to shift me in a very different direction with an enormous amount of passion and conviction.
Got it.
And now I look back and I say, thank God, thank you to that non-Jewish boyfriend that cheated on me. Thank you. Because I found an amazing man and we just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary.
Mazel tov, beautiful.
And I know that my dad lived the amount of years that he lived, and Hashem took him back at the perfect time. And they gave my dad 3 to 6 months to live, but he ended up living 1.5 years. And I believe Hashem gave him that 1.5 years so that I could ask myself what I wanted out of life and to just completely reframe the life that I was living.
Amazing. At what point did you realize that the journey that you were on was not compatible with the music industry? And I mean, I'm sure there was like a lot of kind of both ways, gray areas as you pulled towards Hashem. There's some definite problems, right? So what did that look like?
Well, I was, lucky enough to meet an incredible Orthodox Rav 3 weeks after my father passed away. Okay. Hashem sent me different angels to lead me to him. His name is by Raphael Marlowe. To this day, I consider him my Rav. And we started learning together. Literally from the beginning, Bereshis, like, wow, amazing. And, the short story I'll give you is that after 1.5 years of doing that and trying to kind of shift into a more observant lifestyle, I realized as a professional singer, like, it wasn't like I'm a dental hygienist and I work 9 to 5 and, Shabbos comes in and I just come home and I do what I do for Shabbos. Like, my career is Friday night and Saturday night. That's the primary time that I'm working. So, at a certain point, I had to take a dive and give up my Friday night. But even Saturday night was an issue when Shabbos,
the summer.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had to kind of break Shabbos early and change my outfit and go jump around on stage. And so at a certain point, after 1.5 years of slowly transitioning, my Rav told me, you really need to figure this out and, decide where you're going to be. And he put me on a plane and he told me to go to Israel and figure it out.
Amazing.
Thank God I ended up at Neve Yerushalayim, and I met the first night that the Rav there told me, oh, you're a professional singer, you should go meet Tofa'ah. And Tofa'ah is an incredible women's band. I don't know if you've heard of them, Daniela.
I haven't. No.
Well, they're amazing. I think one of the first, female-only bands, I guess.
Amazing.
I was very moved by my experience with them. I started performing with them. And I realized at that moment that Hashem gave me a gift to use it in this way. It
Yeah.
was life-changing.
Yeah. So I have a question. So this was something I personally experienced as someone who was a dancer, and I went on to dance, after performing arts school, and, I performed in front of thousands of people. I did Latin dance and became a Zumba instructor. And one of the shifts for me was that first time dancing behind a mechitza with just women and recognizing like the kedusha that was, and how different that was from what I had experienced, even with thousands of people, on a stage, staring at me. There was a kedusha and a level that I realized the purpose of my dance skills was so much deeper than some stage, in front of a bunch of men in a not snow environment. So for you, what have you experienced as that transitions in from, on a stage and millions of people to this holy environment with women? What does that look like?
I find it hard to kind of not cry at my performances. I feel very blessed to be able to share my gift to women and girls. And I do feel like it's a divine experience. And when I think about, how I used to perform and the songs I used to sing and how I used to dress and what we used to talk about on stage, I shift into the world of Kedusha, and it's very, very moving and powerful for me. Yeah. So I'm so happy that I was able to make the transition. It was actually not something that I'd ever really thought about while I was, leaving the music industry and becoming observant. I knew about Kol Isha, obviously, yeah. And I knew that I was not going to be performing in front of men anymore. And that was, I embraced that with open arms. I was tired of feeling like an object. And when I started performing with Tofa'ah, I felt a sisterhood between me and the band members that I'd never felt before. And I felt an enormous connection with the women in the audience, which I had also never felt before. The music industry is like very competitive, and it's all about, who's going to not be able to do that gig so I can step in and take her job. And how much attention can I get on stage, and, being that object that gets all the looks. And so I felt very protected. I feel very protected when I go on stage now. And I feel like it's a real privilege and an honor and an obligation as a Jewish woman to bring Hashem into this world and to allow people to really connect musically and through singing and dance, because I love to dance, just to elevate women in their Avoda Hashem with that skill, that gift that I was given.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wanted to talk a little bit about the influence that not just, like non-Jewish music or often Christian music, the entire genre of music, we see a lot of that kind of seep into Eretz Israel sometimes, some of the crossover of different music and the words. I think what really hit me is, even I was attending a Zumba class a few years ago here in Israel, and a lot of the women don't understand Spanish, but I do. So I actually knew what those songs are saying. And I don't have to share with you what most of Latin music is talking about, right? And just recognizing that, maybe for someone that's not seeing it, but for someone like me that did understand it, it was really impacting my neshama. And I could see that that music brings about something in me that is not from Hashem, essentially. So can you give us a little bit about what your thoughts are on, listening to either Christian music or non-Jewish music and how that impacts us specifically as women?
That's a great question. I think that music is a powerful tool that, as we know, can bring us close to Hashem or very far away. I mean, there was music in the Beis HaMikdash. This is a powerful tool to elevate or to descend. Yeah. And I've become very, very careful with what I listen to, what I see. We have to protect ourselves because very much we're influenced by what we hear and see. And I think that, thank God now there's an enormous amount of beautiful Jewish music.
Yes.
I mean, when I was becoming frum, it wasn't like that,
Yeah.
So like now I hear so much beautiful music that's Jewish, that have, lyrics from psukim in there. I mean, it's so elevating. And I do think that it's a personal journey that someone has to slowly kind of go through.
Yeah.
I know I've spoken to a lot of people about this, not listening to Jewish music, and that shift. And I think that, it can be done for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if it's done, you will really feel a difference in, the way you look at life, the way you feel, your connection to Hashem, because, music can be very tumatic.
For sure.
Lyrics are, they go into your neshama, music affects your neshama on a very deep level. I think that we have to respect this power, just like, the power of our femininity, the power of our speech, the power of our thoughts. This is a power that we have to understand, take responsibility for it, and little by little, when we're ready, kind of shift and move towards Hashem, move towards Kedusha. Especially now with what's going on in the world, there's an enormous amount of tuma, of darkness. People are very confused. And it's the time now to really be hyper-focused on our Avoda Zara and how we're doing everything we can to bring Mashiach.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure, the music has such a deep impact, and I see it. We play a song and we can be smiling. We can play a song and we can be crying. I know in college I minored in dance, and we were in this history of dance class, and the professor was discussing how every motion was actually originally a form of worship to a deity of whatever culture that was, Middle Eastern, the certain hand motions and things like this, or everything was a form of worship. And when we realized we were created as nature, as beings that worship Hashem, right? So our voice, our music, it's a form of worship. And dance, in a non holy way, is worship of self and sexualization and not sanua things. And also music is, songs are worshiping lust and money and all of these things. So how do you now use this creative process that you have to elevate people? How do you use that now? What is the main theme, I guess I would say, of your music that's going on now?
Thank you. That's a great question. I am very much focused on bringing simcha to the klal through music and dance. I've produced many open mic nights where I have students of mine and also other women and girls in the community that I know that are very gifted. And I'm very passionate about creating opportunities for us to all share our gifts. A lot of times, I'll put on the open mic nights and people will say, well, we really want you to do a concert. And, because I really only do like maybe 2 or 3 songs when I do these open mic nights, because I want other people to have the opportunity to share, their talents. I just think that, it's David HaMelech used to dance and people would think he was crazy. But, this movement, this physical movement, getting your whole body invested in the joy and connecting to Hashem is so transformative, and it's so healing. I recently, maybe a couple of weeks back, I received an invite on WhatsApp to join a chat. Listen to this. I don't know if you've heard of it. I think it's coming out of Israel. To commit to dancing a certain amount of minutes every day.
Wow. No, I haven't, and I want to sign up. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh, it's like beautiful. I've joined, and the whole, I think it's a Breslov type of
Amazing. Got it.
minhag concept. And the whole idea is to just bring more simcha into your life.
Amazing.
And that's the way we're going to really fight the evil, fight, what's going on right now, and strengthen ourselves in our Avoda Hashem. So, I think that it's very powerful. And what's nice is that now other women that I've had perform are doing their own shows.
Amazing.
And so chain reaction of like, women performing for one another and dancing. And what I also love to do in my shows is get everyone up to dance. Like that's what we got to do right now. We gotta dance together. We gotta rejoice. It's Adar, and Hashem gave us 2 months this year of Adar.
Yes.
It's almost like that refuah that he gave us, with what's going on this year, this situation in Eretz Yisrael, and the war and all of the sorrow and tragedy that the Klal has experienced, really unthinkable, acts and tragedy and horror that the Klal has experienced. Hashem had that happen the same year that we had 2 months of Adar. And so it is our commandment, it is a mitzvah to take those 2 months and maximize our simcha. And so my specific way of doing it is through performing, singing, and dancing. That's the way we're going to combat.
Amazing. So I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. And so I'd love to hear kind of an answer that you give. A lot of girls coming from the frum world who have not experienced the outside the world like we have are like, wow, you lived the life. Wow, you've done so many cool things. Wow, wow, wow. And they talk about feeling, unable to really express themselves or have these avenues. So I think it's so important you mentioned that you're doing, lessons for girls and singing and creating these outlets. What do you think the importance of that in the world, especially for young girls who want to express that, and how can we make that available to them in a kosher way?
I think that girls and women need to be proactive about using their God-given talents. And Baruch Hashem, now it's not the way it used to be. Like, there are an enormous amount of opportunities for girls and women to record, okay? Girls and women to produce music videos, to compose, to do shows. I mean, I would say it's definitely work. We've got to find the avenues and the proper kosher platforms to share our gifts. It can be done. I mean, there are so many successful Jewish female artists now that are, performing on a regular basis, and it's really needed. And Hashem is just waiting for women and girls to, start performing. I tell my students, like they've never performed, or they've done, maybe 1 or 2 of my open mic nights. I tell them, put together a Malava Malka at a neighbor's house, your house, do a Rosh Chodesh concert, a mini concert, at a neighbor's house, or at your school, because you got to put yourself out there. And Hashem is literally waiting for us all to do this, to use our gifts to inspire others. And we need it now more than ever, so it can be done. It should be done. There are podcasts that are happening now. There are YouTube channels that are filled with beautiful, female only, inspiring Jewish talent. And I really, it definitely, it takes work, you gotta figure it out, but it can be done and it should be done. So, network, wherever you want to go, Hashem is going to lead you there and help you, succeed in whatever you want. So you want to start writing, Hashem's going to find you a composer, to start co-writing with. You want to perform, Hashem's going to find you a venue where you can put together a little show and invite your friends and the neighbors from your block to come and do a little malava malka, you want to start a podcast, easy to do.
Yeah.
You can share all of this talent now so easily. It's got to be channeled in the right way. And it's beautiful. I see so many women and girls now, flourishing in their talent. And it's an obligation.
Beautiful. Can you give us maybe an example of some of the hashgacha pratit that you saw along your journey as Hashem just opened doors for you to come into this in a more, kedusha, as you traveled across? What were some of those moments for you that you saw Hashem just leading you?
In retrospect, I look at my whole career, secular and frum, and I see it as like a total picture, a movie of, what Hashem wanted to learn and how he held my hand every step of the way with just enabling me to walk away from the secular music industry and shift the different people and events in my life, and how, I found my Rav, who was the perfect person to inspire me. And I also have to mention my sister who lives in Eretz Yisrael, Judy Lynn. Yeah, she's in Nitivot, and she really was, I would say, the first person that taught me about the major concepts within Judaism. She's always been a huge inspiration to me. So, her process of becoming observant as well, who, by the way, she was also an incredible dancer, definitely heading towards the stage as a professional dancer. Like, that was for sure going to be her trajectory. And all the different, events that happened that gave me the clarity to say goodbye to the music industry. And, meeting my husband, performing for women, raising a family as a frum woman, and just being in a frum community was just so beautiful, to be a part of a nation, to be a part of a holy nation.
Yeah.
And to feel a sisterhood on an neshama level.
Yeah.
Which, the outside world doesn't know from this.
Yeah.
And it's just a real privilege and an honor to actually be a part of Klal Yisrael.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you can, let us know of any upcoming projects, any things that you're working on, what's in the works, what's coming. And I have one personal question. Is there any Latin beats and music incorporated? Did you bring any of that into your music?
Oh, yeah. So I'll answer the first question. Right now, I've been definitely excited about open mic nights because of what's going on. I feel like, women are just bursting to share their gifts and talents. So that was definitely a priority for me. I was able to, Baruch Hashem, put on an incredible open mic night here in South Florida in Boca Raton. 300 women showed up. It was like the first one here. And literally it was like a magical night. Women were high from that night for months. I had women leaving me like 4-minute long voice notes telling me about how just moved and elated they were from the experience. So I'm definitely concentrating on that. And Baruch Hashem, now I've been zochet to start doing outreach. That's one thing I really always wanted to do. And I have done it obviously in my shows, like I've done a lot of outreach for Chabad and Esha Torah, and, just when I perform in high schools, I'm always doing outreach in that way. But now I'm actually meeting with girls and women and mentoring them and sharing my process of, becoming observant and how to really connect to Torah and mitzvahs. And that's been super exciting and just what's so needed. I feel like now with all the anti-Semitism in the world, secular Jews are asking themselves a lot of questions about who they are. And it's an awakening that obviously was very purposeful. Hashem did it for a reason. And it's very exciting to be able to facilitate a completely secular woman or college girl and facilitate that experience of seeing God in the world. Beautiful. So I would say that right now, those are the two things that I'm most excited about, aside from, doing, lessons and just speaking. Doing a lot of stuff.
Amazing. Amazing. The next time you're in Eretz Yisrael, we'll have to get you up here in Sfat. As you know, this is the hub of the arts. Yes. All artists that live here. I think every neshama that ends up here is an artist of some form. And so that's definitely what Sfat is here. And so I would love to get you connected here in Sfat. What advice would you have for maybe a secular unaffiliated Jew right now that's already in the industry, that's there? This is what they do. And, I think October 7th was a big wake up call for many people to realize that there is an us and a them. And we are one of those us, no matter how far away from Torah we are, we're still a Jew, right? And so it's been a big awakening. What would your advice be, to someone that's in that industry and steps that they can maybe take to move back towards Hashem?
Great question. I just realized I didn't answer the question about Latin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So I definitely incorporated the percussion and the Latin beats in my songs as much as I could. I actually have songs that I sing in Spanish, and I love performing in Spanish. It's like a whole different side of me comes out. Just the language is beautiful, and it's amazing to be able to like bring those two worlds of like Spanish, Latin to like Kedusha, which is, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like extremes coming together. But I love dancing and singing in Spanish. So whenever I do my concerts, I make sure that I end all of my concerts, if the event lends itself to it, always end up with the tambourine, the maracas, the shakers, all the bells, the chimes, all the percussion, and I hand them all out, and we're all jamming to our Latin and all the dance moves. So I definitely incorporated the Latin beats. And to your next question of secular musicians right now, secular Jewish musicians, I would say that, clearly there's a need, an obligation for secular artists, Jewish and non-Jewish, to stand up for Eretz Yisrael, for Israel, for the Jewish nation. As an artist, we have an enormous influence on the masses. And now, of course, with social media and the internet, we can really reach an enormous amount of people that are misinformed, that are brainwashed, and that don't know the MS. So I've seen countless Jewish and non-Jewish, very famous artists, actresses, recording artists, just famous people, coming out and speaking, supporting Israel and the IDF. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to take that influence and use it to spread MS, and to have the courage to say what you believe and to stand up against anti-Semitism. So I want to just applaud everyone and thank everyone that's out there that is coming out and speaking with courage and with conviction for Klal Yisrael, for Israel, and for what we're going through right now. So I think that all of us as Yidden have, in our own way, the ability to promote MS, to promote Torah and Hashem. And we need to educate the world on what's going on, and because there is so much misinformation. So definitely get out there and do everything you can to do your part. That being said, the flip coin of that, I want to also just say that, you know, this constant social media, you know, public persona and movement of, you know, posting, and this public presence out there it's kind of a slippery slope, you know?
Right.
So, you know, I don't care how many likes and followers I have. I really don't. My life is very private. I like to keep it private. And I do my part in publicizing Kedusha and inspiration, but I have to also very much keep it in check, because I don't want to be addicted to public approval. I don't want to be addicted to my phone, and it's very damaging, actually. So there's got to be a balance, and there's got to be fences that are placed to remain disciplined and to remain, you know, in a good place socially. One thing I wanted to share that I'm very excited about, and I'm telling everyone about, is, you know, after the massacre on October 7th, you know, we were very, very moved and shaken by it. And I used to get on my phone like right when I woke up. I used to turn my phone on right when I woke up. And after, you know, October 7th, the massacre and the horrible events that took place for the Klal, I have a sister, like I said, in Netivot. So, that's
very close to home for you. Yeah,
exactly.
Very close.
So I was really hearing, you know, the gory details.
Yeah.
And Baruch Hashem, she and her children are safe. But I also had two of my children in Israel at the time. My son was learning in yeshiva, and my daughter was asked to be a madricha in her seminary that she attended for 2 years. So I was really like invested in this situation.
Yeah.
And so I asked myself, you know, what can I do to show Hashem that he's first in my life? You know, so I started to not go on my phone when I woke up, and I would go straight into davening. And Baruch Hashem, I would go outside in my backyard, and I would just, I said to myself, that's it. All this stuff on my phone, this is all static. This is all secondary. This is all coming from Hashem. So I'm putting Hashem first in my life, and I want Hashem to see that there's nothing more important to me than him, and serving him b'simcha and with an authenticity. So I've been doing this, Baruch Hashem, for quite a few months. And I have to tell you, Daniela, it has completely transformed my life.
Amazing. It's such a powerful thing. I think we should start a challenge. I went completely off social media. I'm not on it at all. Instagram, Facebook, everything's gone. Twitter. I said, I'm done.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
Get off.
I was done. And it was difficult because I do use my platform for positivity, and but I found myself becoming consumed, both emotionally with the negative stories, the positive stories, you know, everything that was going on, obviously, in Eretz Yisrael. And so I just realized that, like, we have to be a light, and I can't be a light while, like, I'm constantly getting bombarded with all this darkness. And so I just stepped away, and it was hard at the beginning. But I realized I'm more present with my children. I'm, more able to balance my day, even with rockets going off. We get up, we have Zumba classes here in my house, and we're doing Torah studies, and we're learning. And it's like, there's so much more important things to be done here in Eretz Yisrael than to be on social media. And so, yeah, I think that's I wonder if we could start some kind of a challenge for women, even if it's just putting a limit, stepping away, being a light at home, being a light in our neighborhoods first. So
that's right.
Thank you so much.
Now, even I just wanted to add a little bit. Now that I'm working with completely secular, unaffiliated Jewish women and girls, I've given them just little tidbits of how to connect, because they really don't have any frame of reference. They don't even know where to start. So, I tell them what I've done. And just earlier today, I said to a girl that I was meeting with, she's 21 years old, completely secular, and she just is starting to connect with God and Shabbos, and we've been talking about tznius, my favorite subject, and it's just amazing to see how she's open to it. And I said to her, I gave her this her name is Faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her that, oh, your name means Emunah.
Emunah, yeah.
Started talking about Emunah, and I had this beautiful printout of these different Emunah phrases that I gave her. And so she told me she's been waking up and she's been saying these Emunah phrases. And I told her, and I said, and from there you can just start talking to God in your own words. And I said, you can pray by the formula of, expressing praise to God. And then the second one is asking God for what you want. And then the third one is thanking God and showing gratitude. And she was just like completely blown away by this like little formula. It was like it's good. I like took the inspiration. It's important to take the inspiration and kind of bring it into like a practical, form of something that you're doing and that you can stick to, little by little. I said to her, and that's for that goes for all of us in our Avoda Hashem, wherever we are, in our prayer, in our speech, in our tznius, in our kisui road, in our relationships, in our perspective, little by little, like, let's look at where we can improve. And Hashem's going to always be bringing us tests and challenges to test us. And so we gotta, this is the moment every day, we got to do it every day and be looking for those opportunities to really grow. And it's really exciting to be able to be, a part of all these people's lives in that way.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being so authentic and real. And I think it's so important that we now express this, and get this out to the world of there's other options for Kedusha. I think that's so, for me personally, coming again from a Latin background and, the tight jeans and the not sanua clothing, Sniut has become, it's so empowering to me. I feel like I took so much power back. I decide who looks at me. I decide, now it's like, it's such an empowering thing for me. And it was a journey. It took about 3 years for me to go like full spectrum to who I am today. And even my Sniut today is like going up and up and up and up as I learn more and I understand that it's more than even just what I'm wearing. Right. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and everything. It's been such a pleasure. And if you have any information, we'll definitely get it and link it here for people to get in contact for your music. If you have any websites or contact information, if you would share that with us now.
Thank you. Definitely, I'm very open to more speaking engagements and concerts for women. That's really, I think, what everyone is needing and wanting. And people can definitely contact me via email, I think is the easiest, msandler@gmail.com. And you could definitely find me on Instagram, Miriam Sandler, and Facebook. And I do have a website, miriamsandler.com. You can see my lyrics there. You can hear my music. I am also on YouTube, very limited, but I am on YouTube. I think that the most current stuff is on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
I should definitely share that I started a luxury headwear line called Forever Crown.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was something that I started right before COVID hit with my dear friend who I've performed with for many years, who's a dancer. Yeah. So yeah, women can definitely go online, forevercrown.com, and check out our beautiful headwear. And yeah, it's just a journey, and we should all just support one another and really guide one another towards, with no judgment and just pure acceptance and love. We should guide each other towards Kedusha and sisterhood, and we should all be able to dance together in Yerushalayim with our tambourines. Oh, I should have brought my tambourine.
Yes.
Making my tambourine for you a little bit.
Pull out my maracas. Yeah.
I didn't come prepared. Where are they?
We'll have to have it together. Bezrat Hashem soon in Eretz Yisrael together.
Next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. You should continue in this beautiful, holy work.